Hi there, it's Nicole for Lawn Fawn, and today I'm sharing a Halloween themed card featuring new stamps and dies from Lawn Fawn, the Costume Party stamps and dies, and the Village Border die. And I'm going to pair that with some stitched hillside borders as well to create this Halloween scene. I like to start by laying out the components for my card, kind of gauging if everything is going to fit and work together nicely. So I've got my dies laid out, some of the images I'm going to use, and a greeting. And at this point, I'm really deciding if I want to have the greeting up above the scene or down below. And for this card, I'm going to do it up above. This is a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock trimmed to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And I'm using a powder tool because I'm going to stamp a couple of phrases from this stamp set. It's a great stamp set. Not only does it have the images, but lots of greetings you can mix and match. I'm stamping them with Versamark ink and then heat embossing with white embossing powder to do some embossed resist inking to create my night sky background. This is all going to be kind of back behind the village border and the stitched hillsides where my little trick-or-treaters are going to be walking along. So I'm going to heat set this with my heat tool. I think here, tipped at an angle, you can kind of see it even though it's white on white. From here, I am going to grab some Distress Oxide inks in Wilted Violet, Peacock Feathers, and Black Soot. And instead of doing kind of like an ombre effect, I'm instead going to just lay down circles of color. It's super messy. But the Distress Oxides and Distress inks are so forgiving. I love the oxides for these kind of night sky type of cards. Once I have added in some black, I'm going to go back with my lighter tools and start blending that color in. I want the majority of the background to be black with these hints of aqua and purple in the background. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. At this point, looks super messy. It's not that great. But once you kind of have it blended, spritz it with a little water from a distress sprayer. And I'm going to be I'm not going to do a lot, just very, very light. I did buff off any ink that was sitting on top of the greeting first. I want that to be nice and bright white. Then I'm going to take that paper towel and blot the water that I just spritzed. And I sprayed it from pretty high up, so it would be small drops. I didn't want any really big drops, and I was really careful with how much I sprayed. Sometimes I like a lot of distressing. I really wanted it to be light here. Next, I am going to take distress paints, and I've got a little picket fence here. I'm going to water it down with just a tiny bit of water, take a small paintbrush, and just simply flick this all over the background. This is building that night sky. Once I have the white paint, I'm going to clean this off, clean my brush, and I'm going to grab another color of paint. I ended up doing 3 different colors. Probably don't need to do all of these if you don't want to. I just, as I was working on it, I just kept thinking of different colors I wanted to add to the background to add to this distressing. Next, I'm using tarnished brass, and I'm going to mix that up really good. Just a tiny little bit of this. Again, I like to water it down. I find that it picks up easier and it flicks over the surface. This is going to have some kind of gold to it, which I think is nice for a night sky. And then finally a little black soot, same thing, water this down and just do a few of these all over the surface. And then I like to set this aside to completely air dry. I'm going to take the Village Border now. This is a fantastic new great scene builder die from Lawn Fawn. And die cut this from some Lawn Fawn black licorice cardstock. Just kind of lining it up straight. I'm going to use my grid paper to help me line this up perfectly straight. And then I'm going to run it through. The paper is much longer than what I'm actually going to need. So I'm going to pop that out, and that way I can size it to be perfect. I think it's a little easier to trim it down after I have die cut it rather than trying to die cut it perfectly to size. So I want it to kind of frame up that greeting that is in the night sky. What's fantastic about this village border is there's the little tree piece, which I'm not going to use, and then there's the other little pieces that you can die cut from a contrasting color of cardstock, in this instance, sunflower cardstock, and glue them in place behind to make it look like all of the little houses and things and buildings are all lit up. So it looks like lights are on in all of the homes and the little trick-or-treaters are just going by. So I flipped over my border. I still haven't trimmed it down at this point, and I'm going to start placing these little yellow pieces back behind. You do not have to do them behind all of them. You could also choose to switch up the colors if you wanted to make it kind of easy, and I really consistent all the way across where it looks like all the houses and buildings are lit up. I stuck with the yellow, and I'm simply going to fill in with all of these little pieces. You can die cut as many as you need, but they're just fantastic for building this border. I'm using a little glue pen. This is the EK Success glue pen to add little dabs of glue, and then placing all of these little rectangles in place. And I'm actually using the other end of my paintbrush to hold them down instead of like a stick-it tool or something like that. Once all of these yellow rectangles are in place and I have backed all of the openings, I can kind of gauge and measure how tall I want that to be and trim it down. Now I'm going to take some of the green cardstock. This is the Noble Fur cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and I'm going to cut 2 borders from this using the Stitched Hillside Borders dies. Now this is really bright green. I guess it's not really bright green, but it's too bright for this scene. So to tone that down just a little bit, I am going to use some black soot Distress Oxide ink to darken this and make it match this Halloween scene a little bit. It's still going to have that hint of green to it, but the black soot on top really helps mute it and helps build the scene so it looks more nighttime instead of daytime. And I can add as much or as little as you need here to get the scene looking the way you want. So there is what the background looks like. A little wink of Stella Clear glitter brush pen over all of the yellow lighted up windows and doors is going to give them a little bit of sparkle. I think it adds to that Halloween feel of the design as well. Just being really careful. I don't want any of that to get on the buildings. I want to keep it just to the yellow cardstock pieces. And next, I am ready to stamp my images that's going to complete the scene. So I've laid out what I want to use. I'm using the unicorn, dinosaur, some pumpkins, a little jack-o'-lantern treat basket, accessory pieces, candies, the little witch, and then the little boy dressed as a pumpkin. I'm going to stamp these on smooth white cardstock using Jet Black Lawn Fawn ink. This is a fantastic ink for Copic coloring. I'm going to ink these up as many times as I need to get them stamped a nice dark black outline image. And then I can start coloring them in. I'm going to speed through this. I have left in the coloring of these images, and across the bottom of the screen I've listed the colors I've used for each section. My pumpkins are a combination of YR15, 27, and E37. That's going to darken it up just a little bit. These pumpkins, I tried to use more muted colors, I guess I want to say, with the exception of the unicorn for my cards. So they're all a little bit on the darker end of the spectrum instead of the brights, I guess. You can color them however you want. I thought it matched maybe the distress inking that I used for the background of my card. I didn't want really bright orange and bright green pumpkins when I darkened up the green cardstock and I created that night sky. So this is kind of the feeling I was going for with these. Now I did try to color everything that was one color at one time, but I forgot the little jack-o'-lantern treat bag. So I'll come back to that here in just a little bit. I did the little boy's costume and then the single pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and do the skin tones. I'm using a combination of E00, 11, 13, 27, and R20 for all four faces. Just different combinations of those throughout. Really quick coloring. R20 for the cheeks to make everybody's cheeks a little pink. Imagining that it's a cool night evening and their cheeks are pink from being out trick-or-treating. We'll finish the last one here. The costumes are just adorable, I think. So super cute and fun. The dinosaur is YG 93, 97, and 99. This reminds me of a costume my youngest son had when he was a little bit younger. There were a couple years there, I think, where he dressed as a dinosaur. These are some of my favorite green shades when I'm wanting something a little bit darker and richer looking and not so bright green. One of my very favorite color combinations. Next, the broom is going to be in, and also the tops of the pumpkins, shades of E53, 55, and 57. It just kind of depends. I mixed and matched those throughout those areas. And then, of course, I'm going to fill in that final pumpkin with YR 15, 27, and E37. Finish coloring in the broomstick really quick. And I'm going to take that YR15 and color in the band around the broom. The hair for the little kid in the pumpkin costume is going to be E40, 43, and 44. The only hair showing for these four images is on the witch and the little pumpkin kid. So I'm only going to color in hair for those two. Not a lot of hair showing on either one, so super quick coloring there. I wanted it to look like he had little orange tights on, so I colored in that with YR15, and then his shoes are some warm grays. Again, going back to the darker brown colors for the chocolate bar, and then some cool grays for the witch's costume. Cool gray 5, 7, and 9. And then I'll be using some blue, violet, purple tones for the stripe or band around her hat and her tights. I'm going to darken that up just a little bit. It was a little lighter than what I wanted it to look like. Do her shoes as well, or little witch shoes. Here's those purples, BV00, 00, and BV02. For her hair, I'm going to go back to the E50, 53, and 55 color combination for like some blonde hair. And then I'm going to color in the unicorn. And the unicorn, I decided I wanted it to appear to be kind of white in color. So I'm going to be using some grays to get that white color, but some shadowing. And then some bright colors for the nose of the unicorn and the mane and tail. So some pinks with RV 52 and 55, some aquas with BG 11 and 13, and then the same purples I used for the witch hat for the remaining little stripe and the unicorn horn. I thought those were some nice unicorn type colors. Warm gray 3 is the darkest I'm going to get with my warm gray colors. That's just for shadowing. Warm gray 00 to blend everything out. And then I will die cut all of those with the coordinating costume party dies. I'm going to adhere my village border to the background that we created at the beginning of the video. Go ahead and adhere both stitched hillside borders on top of that, and that builds the background. I'm going to use a black glaze pen to add detail to any eyes and maybe noses and things on the images. And then to make it super easy to attach everything, I ran them through a Xyron sticker maker to make everything sticky, and I'm simply going to build the scene. So attach all of these adorable little kids, their little accessories, and then all of the little candy pieces and things like that all the way across. Attach this to a white side fold card base. And that is going to finish up this Halloween scene featuring the brand new Lawn Fawn Village Border Die and Costume Party stamps and dies. Thanks for joining me today for this card featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Lawn Fawn that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.